If you can imagine a society where everything is failing or has already failed, and then drop on that a momentous natural disaster.
Everyone okay?
You get yourself into a place where it's very hard to imagine what comes next. I'm Tony Cheng, Al Jazeera's correspondent based in Bangkok. And between us, Myanmar's earthquake has reinforced the failings of a country with no working government. Even before this disaster happened, there was this terrible situation across the country where even basic services were very much on the edge. And then imagine having a 7.7 magnitude earthquake happening in that situation. Everything fails. And that's what we saw. We saw communities come together, victims dealing with this with great resilience, but at a certain point, there was just no government reaction. We just didn't see any mobilization of government forces. You had to put this in the context of a country that's been hit over the last 4 years by a military coup that basically decimated civilian government. I think it's exposed all of the failings and it has compounded them by 10 times. And it's such basic things like water supply, food supply. And the World Food Programme had announced, again, before the disaster, that because of lack of funding from the United States, it was having to cut off essential food aid to 1 million people inside Myanmar. Just imagine what that's going to be like now. The number of people that need that help has doubled, tripled, quadrupled in some cases, and it's just not going to come. And I think for those people that were barely surviving before the earthquake happened, any ounce of hope they had must have just evaporated. One of the things that was very apparent in Mandalay was that a lot of religious sites had been damaged. Beautiful pagodas that were over 100 years old. In some cases, these magnificent stupas that were thousands of years old. Mandalay, which was the hardest hit city, was very much the spiritual capital of Myanmar. We spoke to one young man. He said, a lot of this, it just can't be rebuilt. It's a loss, both historically and spiritually, which can't be rebuilt. But he was also very angry about the fact that there wasn't going to be any help coming from the government and that nobody was putting their faith in the government to rebuild. In the weeks since the earthquake, people have tried to get out to other areas that weren't as badly affected. The problem is that's pushed them into areas that are outside government control, where there are still attacks going on. The military junta is plowing all of the money it has into arms that it's using to fight these rebel groups and pro-democracy forces across the country. The military junta had been continuing with air operations since the earthquake. So I think at this stage, it's very hard to see what kind of rebuilding would take place. I would imagine the real burden of this is going to fall on individuals. Those people who can afford to rebuild their houses, rebuild their businesses, will do. But they're not going to get any help from the government or anybody else.